Finally, we have come to the time that I've been waiting for a year. Frieren has officially started with a bang. And you know a series is going to be a banger these days, especially depending on who the artist is opening up for a series. And we've got Yoasobi doing it the second big huge series of the year. Obviously they did Idol with, Oshinoko, and now we've got this. I just still can't believe that we are getting these two series in 1 year. This is going to be spectacular. And then we've got Madhouse making this nice comeback return, and then Millet closing out the outro, and the soundtrack is superior. Holy crap, they did not disappoint with this first episode. And just so everybody knows that is watching this, I am going to do one video each for each episode, just to kind of get rid of some clutter and allow people that just want to break it down that way to be able to do that, and it makes editing for me a little bit easier. So without further ado, let's talk about this first episode, and we'll get more into some other things at the end here I really want to talk about from this episode, and then we'll continue on to episode 2 right after that. So this show starts off right off the bat with the party, which consists of 4 members, which contains Frieren, Himmel, Heiter, and Eisen. And I am sorry if I butch some of these names up, but they're on their way back in the cart, and obviously Frieren's reading, and they're getting to the capital, and they're just talking about how they can finally see it after their adventure. Which all 3 of them except for Frieren are talking already kind of along the means of how they need to find new jobs now that they're getting back, because obviously their adventuring days are over after defeating the Demon King. But that does not mean, it doesn't really mean that their life is over. It's just the fact that this chapter in their life is over. And of course, we get a little bit of personas for these characters, based off of what we get to know, even though in this series it's not really about the action of the party. But we'll find that out as we go along. And obviously to define the 4 characters as well, which you kind of see as we go, but Heiter is a priest, Eisen is like a fighter dwarf, and then obviously Himmel is another type of fighter human-esque person, and Frieren is a spellcasting elf. So obviously being an elf, she's got this longer lifespan and everything. But of course, like I said, everybody has their characteristics as well, and Heiter is an alcoholic type of priest. He likes to really drink and stuff. And so he's really excited for the fact that when they come back here, that's probably going to be something that's involved with the return of the party after beating the Demon Lord. But everybody planning their lives away. Obviously, Frieren doesn't really care too much because she's just got a really long life, and that's just something that is going to be a huge theme of this series, and grasping that along the way. And they get back, and they get to the king, and he's congratulating them for beating the Demon King and just how awesome it was. And right after that, we get to the celebration festival, right? And it just looks so good. I love these character designs and just how beautiful they are. But obviously, the group's sitting there kind of chilling and eating and drinking, and Himmel's pretty much referencing the fact that they're going to build this huge statue of them in Times Square. Oh my goodness, in the town square, and that's going to be something that they get to live with their whole lives. And Himmel's making jokes about how he doesn't think they're going to be able to recreate his dashing, amazing looks and his persona and everything to go along with that. And the irony of Frieren thinking about how the fact that when they left on this adventure, that the king didn't even give him 10 copper coins, because obviously the king probably thought they were never going to make it throughout this whole journey, especially considering this journey took them 10 years to accomplish, which is why all these guys kind of, coming back are having this grasp, come to terms of that they just went on this 10-year adventure. And that's, as a human, especially in this like time area and everything, that's a lot of your life, 10 years spent on one quest. And so, obviously, like I stated earlier, Haiter is really excited about, the fact that there's free booze this time around. And that, everybody always calls him a corrupt priest because, sure, he is a priest, but everything he does is always so kind of like contradictory. And it's just, there's just really something about that character that you just kind of hate to love and love to hate. But, as kind of the leader-esque one, Himmel's kind of, gathering all around, talking about how their journeys have, officially ended. And then they start, like, kind of reminiscing on everything that happened and how it even started, and the fact that Himmel and Eisen almost got executed right off the bat from, like, before they even started their journey for insulting the king and harassing him, which is, like... Step one, no wonder he only gave you 10 copper coins each, my goodness. And then they reminisce on the fact that Haiter was drunk at least once a week and pretty much useless, but at the same time Frieren is also acting like she's Miss Perfect, but apparently she's got a problem with mimics, and she always like tries to check them out and gets swallowed up, but it's pretty great. But just retrospecting on the whole thing, Himmel's just really glad that he could have done it with them, and he didn't really want to have it any other way, even though all of their memories are so just kind of like always something going wrong or astray. But in the end, everything ended up working out. And in that whole reminiscent of everything going on, obviously Frieren is just talking about how short it was to her, and it's just so crazy how that is such a perspective of the whole thing. But right when that's all going down, the meteor shower was about to start, and it happens every 50 years, which right off the bat Frieren is talking about how the city view is really kind of crap, and then in 50 years she'll take all of them to go see it in a better perspective. And of course Himmel's kind of like coughing at it and laughing it off, because obviously he probably doesn't think he's gonna make it to be that old, considering the fact that's a 10-year journey. Add 50 years on it, and probably at least 15 to 20 years, you're looking at like 80-year-old man, right? So they get ready to say their goodbyes, because obviously Frieren's going to take off and do her thing, which she pretty much comes to the conclusion of she's going to start looking for more magic and just travel the world and come back, and with the 50 years or so, or even a little bit before that hopefully, and just kind of check up on things and hope that everybody's still alive. And so she sets off on her journey. And obviously, like I said, the three of them are sitting back, and they're just thinking about how weird it is, how they can't even comprehend how even just like 100 years is just like nothing to an elf, because with how long they can live, it realistically is like the blink of an eye, So we get to see her and her journeys over the years, and there's, just blizzards and nice oasis vibes and this like really awesome mystic cave, and she's like giving off light shows for these cities and helping flowers grow. And of course, to add to the hilarious humor and keeping it up, she gets she gets sucked up again by another mimic, and it's absolutely just freaking hilarious. But after all this time, she needs a dark dragon horn for some spells that she needs to do, or magic, I believe. And at the magic shop, he says he hasn't really seen any for 20-30 years. There's not even any like shadow dragons around, period. So she thinks about it, and she actually ended up giving a, like a dark dragon horn to Himmel on their journey. And right from the beginning, he was whining about how there's this huge evil aura coming from it, but she let him hold it, and everything. So she travels back to the city after 50 years. And Himmel greets Frieren, right off the bat. And, well, he's obviously gotten very old. He's lost his height. He's lost his hair. Got a wicked mustache beard combo. But his height's depleted, and he's just an old, washed-up old man. But obviously he compliments on the fact how Frieren looks identical as she did the day she left. And he she meets up with him and talks to him for a little bit and mentions the horn. And obviously he's kept it around the whole time, and he's talking about how you can never lose it with all that dark aura surrounding it. But she's just extremely surprised at the fact that he even has it anymore, period. Well, it's one of those things where even he admits that it's something that he got from a friend, and there's just no way he could get rid of it, especially coming to terms with age in life and everything. But she's still kind of shocked about the whole matter, and she goes outside waiting for him because they're all going to meet up and go see the era shooting, that shooting star as we've seen earlier, together, like she promised. And while she's waiting for him, she sees the statue of all four of them in town and is able to come to terms with like comparing the statue figure, of him compared to the him now. And it's definitely like obviously something, like I said many times, going to come to like a big term in this series, but it really just shows her how long it really has been to a human in that sense of life. And so while she's kind of getting bored waiting and everything, she comes back to check on him and really criticizes the fact that it's taking him so long, and especially because he's bald. But in the end, obviously he's just kind of reflecting on his life and everything that's really been going on and how much time he has left, and a lot of things to that extent that make you really feel and relate to the character in some sense. But we meet with the rest of the party, and right off the bat, obviously Heiter looks a lot older because he's also human, but Eisen looks pretty, almost the same because he's a dwarf and he doesn't age that much. But Eisen not compliments, but pretty much critiques the fact that Frieren hasn't aged a single day, and she compliments on the fact that Eisen looks, practically the same, which I don't, with aging and everything, obviously dwarves have a longer a shelf expectancy than humans do, so it makes sense, it makes sense in the long run. But they're getting ready to take off on the journey to go see them, and obviously they're kind of quoting or commenting on the fact that it's like a while before they even start, and asking her why they need to leave now. Well, she does mention the fact that it's about a week-long journey from where they're at. And obviously they had something to say about that because they're all old men now, and that's such a long walk for them to tackle and accomplish. But obviously they're prepared for this, so they go on the journey. And so at last the four of them get to pair together one more time as a group and go on this journey to go see them. And so along the journey, obviously they didn't face too many things they had to tackle, but Eisen ends up having to attack these dogs with a stick, obviously not his axe like he used to do, and Frieren comes in with a spell and just wipes them out. And they finally get to their destination, and she was not kidding. It's this nice, like, open area with a huge, like, pond in there. And nothing else to be seen, right? And the show completely starts, and the stars look amazing. The four of them are just absolutely in shock and awe, and with the gleam coming off the pool, and there's just so much to take in. And Himmel is obviously very much enjoying that. You can just see it in his eyes that this is something that he needed to accomplish in his life before he ended up passing away. And so right after that, the next exact scene is sadly Himmel's funeral. And obviously the three of them attend to his funeral because, like we say, they journeyed together for 10 years. It's kind of a big deal. Not necessarily to Frieren, but as the party in a whole, it's a pretty huge deal. And while they're all there in the front, grieving while the public's able to, come to this service. Most of these older ladies are commenting on the fact that obviously Frierien's not crying and she doesn't look sad in the slightest, but at the same time, the other two are talking about how they're not sad either, and the crowd pretty much just banters and taunts him and throws things at him, telling him that he's like a terrible priest and everything. It's pretty comical. I get a good kick out of it. But as they're putting Himmel into the ground, Frierien's really having this like retrospective of the fact that, especially from what people are saying, that, she knew him for 10 years, but she barely knew anything about him because it's such a short time, and she's having second regrets and thoughts about the fact that she didn't really get to know him as a person. Obviously they have memories and everything, but for her it's absolutely nothing. She barely got to know him, and it's absolutely heartbreaking and sad and devastating, but also like a realistic point of view. Maybe not to the extent of her lifeline, but just the extent that you can know somebody for so long or so little and you still don't really know them, and there's a lot to it, and it's really freaking touching, and I love it so damn much. But as we all see, Haiter splits off from the group and he's gonna go back to the Holy Capital, and he tells the two of them this is probably the last time he's ever gonna see them, because clearly he is also a very old gentleman. And so he takes off, and Frierien's about ready to leave too, and she's gonna go obviously search more for magic again, but this time she also mentions that she wants to find more out about humans, and just how they are and what they are. And that's something that kind of like piques Eisen's like point of view. And she does ask him to come on the journey with her so that she can have a nice guard with her, obviously as a mage. And he declines nicely, but he also admits, he's too old to be swinging an axe, even though, he doesn't look much older. It might be still affecting him physically, obviously. And so they split ways, and she hopes to run into him again, and who knows, who's to say. And she takes off on her journey. And so right after she takes off on her journey, we get a 20-year time skip after Himmel's death. And she's on the Holy Land area, and she's looking, obviously, for Haiter. And she can't find him right off the bat. She keeps getting lost. And we run into the next little new character that we get. And that's Fern. And she's actually a orphan that lives with him and guides her back to his place, because she thought he might have been dead, especially after what he said last time, but obviously he's not dead. And she brought a bottle to give, for the service, or not necessarily the service, but just for him dying. But like I said, it turns out he's not dead. So, and we also find out that he doesn't drink anymore, so it's like, oh, this is just kind of awkward. But so Frieren asks about Fern and what she's all about, and you come to find out that she's like a ward orphan, and she has this magical bit bop to her. Like, she definitely has some magic potential. However, he asked Frieren if she'd teach her. She thinks about it for a minute, but she also comes to the grips and the conclusion that she doesn't want to send somebody that's dear to her friend straight to the grave. And that's totally understandable. Like, I get it. And so she can't do that. Obviously, he wants her to kind of try to do something else, not necessarily by force, but just to be there. And right from that point on, we get to the magic library, and the magic library, I don't know if that's exactly what it is, probably just a regular library, but he wants to have Frieren learn this, like, I guess hieroglyphic-esque thing that has this spell for immortality or just enhancing your life. And she tells him that, I can figure this out, but it's going to take me like 5 or 6 years. And obviously we don't know how much longer he has as a person, considering Haiter is pretty old. And he's at that point in time, like any human is, where he just wants a bit more time to get things done, because there's just never enough time in life. But she says she'll give it a shot. And he also asks, if she's not going to bring Fern with her, if she could at least teach her something. And Frieren doesn't disagree with that, because that's simple enough, and it's the least she could do for an old friend. So we get outside, right? And she's looking for Fern, and she finds Fern. And it was a little hard for her, because Fern's really good at hiding her mana presence, which is, huge, especially for a mage that's going to go into fights and everything. But she's sitting there out with the staff and everything, and she's trying to hit this huge stone from across the way. And she wants to hit it because I guess Hightower told her she hits that, she becomes a full, like a full-flown mage. But every time she tries to shoot it, she gets so close and it dissipates. And, she asked Frieren what kind of training she would need to be able to destroy that rock. And, she's going to tell her here pretty shortly. But she asked Fern, first and foremost, if she likes magic. And Fern, pretty much just kind of, whatever, how about you? And they both agree on that subject matter. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. The very first episode with the journey beginning. Perfect episode. I love this series already so damn much. I am so happy we finally have it. And God, like I said earlier, they have set every domino up right. And everybody, who's seen my list and like calls and everything knows that I'm a huge fan of Maquia. And this just is like a more in-depth version of that. And that's what makes me so dang excited about it. It's just like, oh my gosh. But that's pretty much this video. Well, we're gonna tackle that next episode right after this, so stick around and check it out, because you'll enjoy it, I promise you. And if you do enjoy my video, just go check out the series. It's good, it's freaking amazing, and it makes me laugh. But yeah, with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It means a lot to me. And if you're feeling real generous with that subscribe button, it helps the channel out a lot and makes it so I can focus more onto this instead of my other things. But yeah, this has been Squids, and I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.